And at this point, as we look through the book Air War by Edward Jablonski, I'm hoping Kurt Molinex is going to be sending us some photos soon of his, what I hope by now is completed Corsair with the Windy Tune pipe. Another nice book we have in our collection, and thanks to Joe Adamusco. Really a nice book. A lot of good photos, a lot of good stories too. Anyway, and that came to us from Joe Adamusco. Thank you very much, Joe. Well, we're finally back from the NATS, and we really are, I guess it's a double-edged sword. We really are happy the way the Typhoon performed. The Zetron performed flawlessly. The Sato performed flawlessly. And I guess we proved our point in a roundabout way that throttle control is going to be an option that everybody has in the future, and so are the four-strokes. And when I originally envisioned this project, I had no idea how successful this would be. I was hoping even a shot in the top 10 would really be nice. But to have the success I've had, I think the worst thing happened is we wore out a spinner. But we did have well, it's not a major thing that happened, but we were, on the one day it was really windy, and I don't remember if that was Wednesday or Thursday. What had happened is I had the plane upside down, and the person that was holding it, I won't mention their name, squeezed the canopy. And you can see what I have to repair here is I have an edge on the canopy that's cracked. I just put some Scotch tape on it so that oil wouldn't get in there by the little pilot details. So the first order of business now that I'm home, I have two real plans of action here. The team trials are 6 weeks away. There's a problem with the team trials, though, is that my mom has been steadily worsening, and I don't know that we're really even going to be able to go, but I'd like to keep that option open. But I do have a couple of things I want to do, and one of them is I'm going to try to put in the very near future, I want to fix the canopy. The first thing is to maintain the plane and so it doesn't start deteriorating, because ultimately we want this to be in a Spitfire bedroom as one of the models that we're going to keep forever. The other thing that I want to do is I want to try a 72 and maybe even a 56, and we have plenty of motors. We have ones broken in, new ones. We're probably even going to try a 56 in here before the season's out. It'll just be for our own knowledge and for information we can pass on to other people, of course. We also have Miss Ashley, and Miss Ashley's still got the Jet 60, and I have a Jet 60 with a special head that George made me, maybe 6 months ago, and I never really even had a chance to test it properly because we had put most of our effort into this plane. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get out to the field this weekend, maybe get some flights on that jet, because we still want to keep that program going. We don't want to abandon everything here. And then our next, I'm trying to do it in an order of priority. The next thing we probably will want to do is try to get a 72 in here. That would lighten out the advantage of having a 72. Of course, there's advantages and disadvantages, everything. It would knock about 1.5 ounces out of the nose and maybe even reduce fuel consumption more. And because we're ready to start making carbon fiber tanks now in production, one of the things that will allow us to do maybe is put a little tiny carbon fiber, maybe a 4-ounce carbon fiber tank in there, which would get this plane under 60 ounces. That whole package, I can envision having it under 60 ounces. So we still have more things we wanted to try, but our primary one was we wanted to see if this was going to be a doable thing. And a Sato, that was the first Sato that's ever flown in the Walker Fly-Off, and I think it's the first, I'm sure it's the first 91 size motor. So we really did accomplish a lot in a very, very short time. In about 8 months, we put a lot of things out on the runway. Asked question at the NATS by virtually everybody. How's Chickadooley doing? Peeps, you're more popular than I am. Well, that doesn't take much. Anyway, Peeps is doing fine. He's going to help me do a lot of the work in the shop. We have a rainy day. We're going to try to get a lot of our little projects done. And of course, while we're doing this is the part I like the best. Here's Lucky Pyatt flying right now. We have NATS videos to watch over and over and over all winter while we're working on our other projects, our production runs, or our B-25. Crack isn't what happened, I'm sure. When people hold the plane, they hold it by the canopy. It's not a secret how that happens. Now, we've had trouble with the little muffler that Bob Zambelli made because we had to redo it several times in terms of keeping the end caps from falling off, but it looks like he's got that under control. We went a good part of the NATS using this, and it was flawless, so that worked well. This was one of the, well, whenever I come home from a NATS, I always like to do the maintenance right away before we go back out and fly it. And I wouldn't want to be flying it with this tape on it for the rest of the year. I'm just fussy about stuff like this. And I want to look around any other little paint chips. I can clean off some of the rubber off the spinner that comes right off with M600. I like to look around. There's a gouge up here, and I'm still not sure how that happened. And it may be that one of the choices I'll have to do is over the winter time I'll have to refinish some of this area from the canopy forward. Again, at the end of the season I'll figure that out. But right now, trick number one, you're going to repair a canopy. We want to get the tape off, and to get the tape off, we want to warm it with a heat gun. You never want to just pull tape off, whether it's hinge line tape or a repair. Now, if you have a repair at the field, let's say you have a hole in the tissue. Well, you don't want to fly the plane and have it flapping and breaking and everything. Well, anywhere there's a crack, a little piece of Scotch tape is a nice way to fix it, or keep it from getting worse. But now you have to get the tape off. Trick is warm it, just warm with a heat gun, and I got that little tip came from John Brodak years ago. It served me well. I got back from the NATS. I had scheduled some minor surgery. Now look at my eyebrow here. This will be funny. I look like Frankenstein. I had to have a piece that they're still out testing. They did a biopsy on my eyebrow, of all things, and I had a piece taken out of my arm right here that they're checking. So I'm still a little nervous. I always get nervous when I hear that word biopsy. But anyway, so don't get grossed out by I'm not wearing eyebrow makeup or anything either. This is a tip that came from John Brodak, and boy, works like a champ. Now, so many people, they build a nice plane, and then what happens is, as years go by, it just deteriorates because they don't do the maintenance. You know, an airplane, at least my planes, they require periodic maintenance, just like an automobile, or like I guess like my face, like anything. And by the way, since Rich Jacobone has had a bout with some skin cancer, I've gotten real cautious and conservative, using sunscreen by the gallon, and having these tests done whenever I suspect anything. Anyway, the next step after getting off all the tape, assuming we get the tape off and we don't pull up some of the paint, the next step is going to be to clean this area with M600 and a Q-tip, and then just see how bad this actually is. It's a shame when you see how many models, when they're a year or two old, they just don't have the maintenance. And I guess like anything you don't maintain. See, I want to have these models forever. That's my addiction, is the thing that holds me back in life. I want these all up in a Spitfire bedroom at some time. I don't want them just, you know, they're not just replaceable commodities. Yeah, that's quite a nice crack. The first thing we're going to do is mix up some epoxy, some slow drying epoxy. Get it nice and warm and try to get it down under there to make that a little solider. Q-tip with M600, just try to get as much of the peripheral wax, or whatever you want to call it, off of there. And try to look at this and see, this is probably going to require a refinish of the top of the plane at some point in time. But see, if you didn't take care of this, it would just keep cracking and cracking, and eventually you'd have really a major problem. So maybe what we'll do is just do the structural part of this now, so that when we fly the plane, and we're going to be test flying it, of course, this crack doesn't get worse and worse. See how that crack is open? Now what I'm going to do is mix the epoxy, squeeze it, put some epoxy down in there, and again, slow drying epoxy, the stuff that takes a couple hours to dry. Then I'll take a piece of tape maybe or something and just push that down. See, the trick might be, we don't know, I want to try to force some of this down under there. You got to really put a lot on there first, I know that.
And it could be that we're going to have to resort to some higher surgery here. What I could do is get under here with, there we go, get under here with a piece of sandpaper, get this to go under. And what I think we'll do is over the winter we'll take a dedicated day, take the fuselage off the body, and just touch this up in a way that maybe even put, I saw Al Rabe do a cool thing, he put little pieces of glass cloth around the canopy, that probably would work. But the best thing that'd work is don't let anybody hold your plane upside down. Let's see if I can get this under there. This is why you want to use slow drying. This is, you do not want to use fast drying here or you'd be sanding all this off. Then the other thing is you want to get a little bit of heat. And once you can warm that up, now one of the things I could have done, I didn't do it on this plane, but I could have built a fillet out of aeropoxy light around the canopy. That might have made it a little bit stronger. But it just looked more scale this way, but something we may have to. Now, because we have this body all shaded and inclined, we'll be able to end our repair at any one of these inclines or just do the whole body. Just refinish the whole body with a couple of coats of Brodak Clear. Now once that's there, and we can kind of do this a few times, get as much of that in there as we can. And once that's done, now by squeezing it down I should be oozing some out, and that's exactly what's happening. Now I can wipe all the extra off. See how that's going up and down, up and down? Okay, we can get some down in there. Let this dry for a while while we have other projects to work on. So we hope, we took a number 11 blade and just shoved epoxy up under there. And I'll see if it needs reinforcement, because again, this is a temporary repair. Or if we do want to fly this weekend, and I don't think we will, we'll put a little piece of Scotch tape on it just as a temporary reinforcement. But now see, with these shaded inclines, I could, in theory, I could touch up the body maybe from this incline over the canopy forward, end it at this. They got a lot of choices here. That was one of the nice things about using that, and I think we're going to use that on the B-25 too.
So you have 10,000 man hours.
When I get back, of course, I come back to 350, 400 pieces of mail. I also come back to, I think we had 150 pieces of email, something ridiculous. Anyway, Karen's been helping me with it. And the phone just rings off the hook, and every call is exactly the same. People call up and say, "Hi, Wendy, how was the NATS?" Well, you know, I've had 3 days of answering, "How was the NATS?" I really wish I could put it on an audio tape or something. Anyway, this is from Pat Johnson, and we got this now. And anybody that's interested in this fits on a Sato. We're going to try using this, of course, on a Sato 56. This bolts to the back, and this is a removable. They use OS mag. In fact, I pushed that in there too far. It's such a nice tight fit. The Venturi part comes out. Anyway, this is from Pat Johnson. Pat also made up a very detailed print comparing the Venturi swept opening areas. Now, keep in mind, there's a piece of this that you may not see. It is not only the swept area that counts for flow. There are various combinations of swept area and the area around the spray bar, that it's the area around the wall that's the restriction. So a lot of this is close, but not exactly. So what we're trying to do, you also put up here Paul Walker's setup here with the 12.6 APC prop, 5% fuel. Paul told me he was using about 2.5 ounces of fuel. Imagine how light that carbon tank would be. Probably be about 10 grams. But anyway, these nice little things, I don't know if they're commercially available, but now that we have a print like this, one of the things we can do, with Pat's permission of course, is to have Jimmy machine up a couple dozen of them, or find somebody that commercially will make them up. Anyway, what we'll try to do is, if we do have to, again, time is of the essence, because pretty much every day we spend some part of the day with my mother, that it's a necessary thing that I have to do. And so what I'm going to be trying to do is get a 56 broken in, run it with the carburetor, then run it with the Venturi, and try to do some kind of comparison as to if the tank shim changed, did the height change, did fuel consumption, did the RPM change. Again, this is going to be an intensive test. This might be that we don't have enough time to do this. So the only way we're going to have time to do this before the team trials is if every single thing works out. And you know, and I know, there's no way in my life that ever happens. It's the exact opposite. Every possible thing that can go wrong will go wrong. But anyway, this is parts that you can buy from I believe a Max 35 or something, or an FP or something. Anyway, the Venturis are available. And these little, the holder is available. So again, I think Pat would gladly send this, copy of this to anybody if they just inquire of him. I appreciate that he set this all out for us. Most interesting to see, because at the NATS, Bob Gieske bought a 56, Paul Walker bought a 56. I'll be doing some work in the fall, or maybe even next week, depending on how long this Typhoon repair winds up taking. And we'll have a lot of people doing similar work. Pat Johnson has 2 motors. So what we do, we hope we're going to be able to share information, as we always do, and come up with the most reliable setup, the best setup. Brian Manau's already got a 56. He's been working with it. It should be very interesting to see how this evolves. And again, special thanks to Pat Johnson. Now Ron Lutz sent us some nice pictures of his Cardinal. We actually picked these up at the NATS. We had a big package for Ron with all kind of stuff, and you know what? We missed him. We forgot to give it to him. Like he has a big Cardinal and a little Cardinal. Hey, Ron, I'll send some of these on to Stunt News, see if Tommy can use them to print. Walter Umland sent me this. This is from his father's collection, and I'll put these up in a Spitfire bedroom. These are Nose Art. They're Nose Art postcards, and I guess they're from World War II. I can't really tell unless we could find a date or something on them. Place stamp. Yeah, stamp was probably a nickel years ago. Anyway, because when we do the B25, we will have to come up with some really unique nose art. Maybe something a little less pornographic would suit Karen. She's not really into the porno nose art thing. But anyway, it looks like some of these would at least give you some good ideas, even though they're B24s actually. And I know there's a book somewhere in the world, because I saw it one time, and I didn't buy it. And I don't even remember why I didn't buy it, but it showed all the nose art. It just strictly was thousands of pages of nose art, one right after another. I guess somebody made a collection. But anyway, this came from Walter Umland's, the late Walter Umland's father, as he saved this, and Walter's been passing some other. That Mercury, by the way, is still up in my room. Anyway, just give us some ideas for our B25. Now we're up the field with a brand new Sato 56, still in a box, a break-in prop. What we want to try to do today, while other people are flying here because the field is crowded, we want to get this broken in, and what we're going to do is try to get a little feel for if this is going to be a good power plant for Miss Ashley. More or less of add some information to our database. What I wanted to do, and I don't know if we're going to have time to do this today, I wanted to get a couple of flights, or 3 or 4 flights on this, with the Jet 60 in it, get the needle valve set, get everything exactly how I want it, then take that whole package out and put the 56 in so that I can actually change it right at the field in a minimum of time, and that I would be able to switch back and forth under varying conditions to see which I preferred, so that I can have a reasonably good test. But first thing I have to do is bolt in the motor. I have to break in the motor, and then this afternoon or tomorrow we'll try to set this up. Again, we haven't flown the plane with the carbon fiber flaps yet. I'm sure it's going to need a little flap tweaking or a handle adjustment or something. And we can do that while we still have the jet in the plane. The single most important thing you need to do with any four-stroke is get it broken in properly. And when they're brand new like this, they're set up relatively tight. And I want that first hour to be on under 4,000 RPM with the needle valve rich. And I want to look at the overflow, the crankcase vent. It's not an overflow. And when the oil starts to come out relatively clean, I know I'm well on the way to having it broken in. It's a very important step getting this right on a four-stroke, even more than a two-stroke. They're important, and we don't have this washer knurled yet. You can see it's smooth. We like to leave that, get that knurled when we get back to the shop, and use the double nut system, the double lock nut system, to keep the prop from backing off. Usually 3 to 4 turns out on the needle will get the motor started in a real rich mode with the throttle maybe half closed, a little more than half closed. And we also have Pat Johnson's Venturi. We could run this on a bench, run it with the Venturi at some future time and do a comparison. The 56 is it's almost a bolt-in for a Tiger 60 type of setup too. You can actually hear how tight this squeaking. Now the glow plug that comes with the engine is fine to break it in, but as soon as we get it run in, and that'll be an hour and a half, what we're definitely going to do is replace that plug before we put it in the plane with an OS Max F. And the first thing you want to make sure, even if you have a Venturi, you want to keep that RPM down for the first hour. Under 4,000 is recommended, at least an hour. Sometimes what I do is on the first maybe 15 minutes of running, just leave the battery on. You see we got plenty of raw fuel coming out of there, some of the oil too. Very important, the most important thing, unlike a two-stroke, there's a lot of moving parts have to wear in here. What we're going to do is, while that's running in, we're going to get a couple of flights on this and check that those flaps don't need a big tweak. This is what's nice about these, you don't even hear them running when they're sitting here. But they do need that really, see, in the very beginning, here's what you'll see is, the oil, it comes out, it's dirty. Well, eventually it clears up. That's the metal to metal. As soon as that oil comes out clean, it'll be ready to put in the plane. It's kind of neat. We're breaking in an engine while we're flying. I like that. Now before we go putting the 56 in here, these flaps do need a couple of little tweaks. I'm trying to make little notations of it. It needs to be the outside flap tweaked just a tad down, and we'll do that in the shop. We pretty much have gotten everything ready except for finalizing that break-in, and we're ready to put the 56 in here for the next flying session. We're ready. The next step on this is going to be to clean everything up. What I want to do is take the powertrain out of here in one piece. Again, I'm going to try to, make it as easy to do this retrofitting back and forth at the field as possible. Because I want to do some honest comparisons. And you can't do that if you're going to change things every time. Now this setup here was working relatively well today, kind of a middle-of-the-road ballpark, 12-inch 3-blade. Pipe at 18 inches. Everything pretty much standard as to what we've always used on the Jet 60, but we want to get this taken out and then start fitting up that 56. It doesn't really matter where we start this off with, but I wanted to start with a weight with all the Jet hardware in it. With all the trim weights and everything on it.
I wanted it to be accurate. So, see, the thing is, because the CG is going to change, it's going to be a little more nose heavy. So a good candidate for any of these retrofits is a plane that needs a little bit of nose weight. Okay, we're at 3 pounds 7. 3 pounds 7 would be 55. So as we start this,
And it really doesn't matter if it's 55 or 56, but what does matter is if when we're done it's 59 or 51. Well, we don't expect it to be lighter, but we know it's going to be the same weight with the CG further forward, and that's what I think will be an interesting test. And right at the field, we can just put the pipe, the whole thing back in a matter of minutes, fly the plane with the CG either at the rear position or the far position, or we can make up some solder on the tail wheel to get the CG right with both setups. So this will be one of the more interesting tests. We're looking forward to doing this. Always do whenever I'm doing a retrofit, I put exactly the significant information, so when I want to go to put this back, this will be right in the bag that'll hold this powertrain. And I noticed in flying it today, the tank should be a little closer to the mounts. It was running no pipe pressure, the green air filter, pipe at 18 inches, Randy's 2-inch spinner, fuel 10%, lead-outs number 4 and number 7, those are the holes that it goes in. And I have 045 wires on the flaps. I have a tighter set of wires and a looser set of wires that allow for a little more slop in the controls. We're on the tight setup right now. So now we're going to take all this stuff out. This is the next step on this, is to flip it over, take everything out, and now install and carefully record where we're starting. Record the needle valve setting. In this case it's 4 3/4. Because again, I want to be able to go right back. I don't want to go back and have to spend 10 flights finding out where I was last time I flew it. See, now I haven't flown this plane in a year. I forgot to take the screws off of the back of the mount. Hey, you forget, I don't even remember where the screws were on this plane. Well, that's the part of old age that I don't really like. In fact, I don't like any part of it. Anyway, I don't know what we're going to do in terms of having to make some modifications to the way the cowl goes on. May or may not have to do anything. But this is one of the tests that I really wanted to do, because when you do it on, you know, the different days, different weeks, and whatever, I don't know that yet. I always like the way this came apart, by the way. This is really nice. Anyway, and I look inside, and I mean, this is as dry inside as you could ever imagine. Let me, for anybody who has never seen the inside of this is dry. There isn't even a drop of liquid anywhere. Header is sealed up, pipe sealed up. It's just about as nice as it gets. Front bearing is totally tight on this motor, and this is that tricky head that George made. It's a little bit higher than stock compression. I don't know what else he did to that, but that was the last one he made. Now I'm going to keep this all assembled in one piece. I'll wrap it up in a piece of plastic, put it in the van exactly as it is, so I know I can go right back to this anytime I want to do a test or any kind of a comparison. And it's about a 15-minute thing to take it in and take it out. A test session, what we're going to do the first time before we run Venturis or anything, we want to get a ballpark reading. I moved this so that I could just tie a little piece of wire. Dan Bandrock sent me some safety wire. A little piece of safety wire to kind of hold that wide open for the first part of our test. Really what we have is just ordinary aircraft safety wire. I'm sure you could use copper wire or just to lock that wide open, and that'll allow us to fit the motor in without even having to retrofit a Venturi here, which we're going to do at one of the next test sessions. Now the next thing, and this is the critical part. Let me get a ruler. With all 4 strokes, we've found this to be critical. We want to measure the height from the center of the needle valve
and get the center of the tank, the point of the wedge, to be right even with that or as close as possible. Now we're limited in Miss Ashley is we can't raise the tank really high enough, so we're just going to put it at its highest setting. But if we had all choices or we were building a plane, we'd like to have it to start with right on the center of that part to the center of, in other words, measure up here, take this dimension, deduct a ½ inch, and that tells you the tank shim that needs to go underneath there.
I thought I could kill two birds with one stone here, because I had this tank that Joe Adamusco made based on a Behringer tank, and what this allows me to do, see, I can't get a normal Taffender tank, I can't get the point far enough, but with this, what I'm going to try to do, see, I can shim it a little bit crooked and get it almost even. And this is about a 5-ounce tank, I think. This is one Joe made, and we never really put in a test plane till today. Hey, you want to get fed today? You want to get fed today? I have work to do. Yeah, you retrofit everything here, but you don't feed me. Shim this Behringer type tank up. And we have never run those yet, so this can kind of be two experiments at once. The other thing here is I oversized drilled these by 2 drill sizes, and it looks like they'll line up well enough that I can fit the motor in. I'm just going to use a combination of lock washers, some oversized fender washers, and that'll allow me to move this around, maybe get some offsets or things in it. Next thing is to figure out exactly where the needle valve hole is going to go, and it looks like that's going to be the only real gouging that has to be done, is to put a new needle valve hole in and then rearrange all the tubing. Not a real difficult thing to replace that engine pipe setup with. It's a lot of little cuts and corners, but no big ones. And a nice way to route the. This is the vent, the crankcase vent. And I can get that coming out in the back, so more oil comes out of here than out of the muffler. So that'll make, and actually I already have a tune pipe mount already in here. Can use that for that purpose. Needle valve fit right in there nice. This is the single most important thing to get that we've found, most people have found anyway, is the OS Max F plug. And these are expensive, but it's the only plug, once the motor is broken in, that I've found to be dead reliable.
I had to grind a little bit away here to make some room to get the wrench in for the exhaust pipe,
And that one probably was the biggest amount of cutting, because we still have the old needle valve holes. And we have the new needle valve hole, which, and a little vent out the back, which I guess the last thing here is to fit up a spinner and a prop. And we certainly, because we're just starting with a 56, we're going to start accumulating props. Paul Walker suggested a 12.6 APC, and we're going to see if we have, I don't even know if we have one. We got a bunch of APCs, but we'll do a little bit of that and try to fit up a spinner. Now the spinner might be a problem because in the past we've been using we don't have a nut for an aluminum spinner. I think that's the only piece we're going to have a problem with, but let me go through my hardware box and see what I can come up with. This high temperature instant gasket, it just minimizes the amount of oil. I let it sit there for 2 or 3 minutes. I'll put a little bit on the little header pipe here and then sock that in, and then the last thing will be to clean all the oil off the muffler from breaking it in. And usually that's just a job for the broiler. It gets a lot of goop on it when you break it in. Well, even with the carbon backplate, everything kind of, this fit pretty well. You just need to open up the holes, actually. That's kind of an easy, the hardest part is getting a thin wrench in here to tighten the muffler. Other than that, that's a pretty straightforward one. And so we'll start to build our database the next time we get to fly with, get a little database going for the 56. Maybe we can get Warren Walker to bend us one of those head pipes. I'd always prefer that, of course. Very easy to retrofit the 56 in where a 60 is. I would say that's probably one of the easier ones to do.
And hopefully tomorrow we'll get some weather we can fly this puppy. Gained about 1 3/4 ounces, but over 1 ounce of it is in the fact that we have a heavier spinner here than the one we were using with the jet. The other one was all lightened up, but it's a 3-blade and I can't use it on this, so I just put a stock one on there. But I'd say the realistic total weight, it's about 1 ounce heavier, but we anticipate using maybe 1 ounce or 2 less fuel a flight. I think for all practical purposes, it's a tie. I like the way that nose section looks too. And if this works out well, we'll lighten this spinner up. We need to take it down to the lathe. And we have lighter props than this if that was going to be a factor if we're trying to get all the weight out of the nose, which we're not. Now it's just a question of waiting for some good flying air. We thought today was going to be a better day. We're probably going to just wait till the weekend. Just not having good luck with the weather here today. It's real nice, but the wind is howling. And I want to give this as fair a test as possible. After all that work the other day retrofitting it. Anyway, it's summer at Wendy's. And boy, we have baby fish everywhere here. I don't know if you can even see them, but we counted about 50 or 60 the other night. I think you can see all our babies. Here they are. And then maybe we'll get up the field tomorrow. I don't know. I'm not predicting anything. Weather's so unpredictable this time of year. Bristol M1. That's a nice machine gun.
That's the Vickers.
William, how much you pay for it? Like $17?
What team?
No,
Oh, they come just like that? You don't have to... You didn't... Oh, okay. It's like a kit?
together and paint it.
Yeah.
With a 4-stroker in there?
74-stroke.
All right.
This is the one I'm still having a problem getting the spinner for. I called True Turn.
What kind of spinner do you need for it?
Like a mushroom.
It's like the Albert.
Oh, I know what you need. Yeah. It's very flat.
Yeah. The prop rides real close to the end of the spinner.
You can't get like a 4-inch and machine off the front inch of it or something?
Well, it can be done, but I'm trying to see if there's somebody like Arizona Modelers that might make one because they sell the Albatross scale.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at them. I couldn't
Yeah,
get
it looks like we're going to have a nice day up here. Some of the scale flyers are here.
Did you hear?
Forget it!
Mister!
Forget it!
If you don't choose to call me or address me as Mister, then you must call me by my first name.
To make it even more interesting, Brian's got his 56. Nice dead air, guys, huh? Now what we're going to try to do is do a couple of ground runs on this, see how that tank's going to work out. Hopefully get a flight or two. But the air is still stone dead. It's dead. These are the wheel pants we built on video for Mike. Well, Mike built them, I should say. To take apart, they come apart like clamshells. We have the video on making those. That was a nice little addition to his plane. And since Mike's the one that cuts the grass on the field, he can never complain that he can't use his wheel pants. Because this thing was never in a plane before, what we wanted to do is
did a couple of runs just to see how this tank. We're not familiar with this tank at all. So Mike is putting on a couple of test flights just to get the motor comfortable. We started off with a 12.6, which was Paul Walker's the prop of choice. I don't know if that's the one we're going to wind up with. We're certainly going to find out. It's just getting ready to run out of fuel now at the end of the flight. And this is what's nice about having a test pilot. Make him earn his money. I had a goal here, and I don't know if this is the way everybody else does it, but I like to get, I am not sure, half a gallon, 3/4 of a gallon through the plane, because it's basically a new tank, and I want to make sure I'm not picking up junk in the tank. And I want to stabilize the runs and get some idea of how big of a tank I'm going to need. Right now it ran about 9 minutes on 6 ounces of fuel. And we know that's going to change as the motor wears in after we get a couple hours of runtime. So just having Mike around to do the flying, I think it gets a better workout flying than when you're actually just using it on the bench and just letting it run. We've been running at about 8,900 with, Paul's been running 9,200 with that prop, so we're going to work into that as the day goes by. Brian's been running 13.5s on his 56 with some pretty good results, but again, the air is dead here. You really can't fly the way I would like to fly stunt patterns anyway, so. But it's a good day to run this motor and get some time on the motor. I got home and I got some pictures here to share with you. Now, these are some old pictures from Mike Ferguson. Mike is doing has done the paint work for the design work for Bill Rich's paint job, and he sent these old pictures in. You can see that's one of Billy Simons's, I believe it's old planes, and where he picked up the Gemini, where he picked up the idea for Bill Rich's paint job. And some old pictures here of other people that I'm not familiar with. He didn't send captions to the pictures, but what I'll do is I'll pass these on to Bob Hunt and see if he would like to add them to his collection once we have them on a video, of course. In fact, that looks like Bob's Jet F-105, I believe. Anyway, nice stuff. And we got a giant box here from Bruce Hunt. And I mean a giant box. I got to open this off camera. Not sure where Bruce got all this. I think he got it off eBay. But I guarantee you one thing, we'll be watching this over and over again all winter. And Bruce, by the way, I don't care if you shoplifted this. This is great stuff. And I'm just going through the box here. Famous bombers are worth. I mean, can you believe this? This is unbelievable. More stuff. More stuff. B-25. But we're going to have our own B-25 library. Now, anybody that, you know, that obviously, if you're really into the B-25 thing, look at this. If you're really into the B-25 thing, I'm glad to share everything I have. And you know what you ought to do? The first thing is run over and call Bruce Hunt up. He probably has more. Look at this. You can read this soon. But see, one of the things, my eyes are so bad, even with glasses, I get headaches from reading. But I'm gonna have Karen read it to me. You know what I'd love to have? They have these books like on 8-track, not 8-track, those cassettes. Then you could plug it in all the way to Muncie. Wow. Anyway, Bruce, I can't do. I'm not even halfway through the box. It just shows you. What it shows you is the kind of friendships that you build, nurture by sharing things. I don't know that I'll have enough time in my life to do everything I want to do, but I sure am going to give it a try. Now look, nacelles, how the sheet metal went together, the gunship version. There's more stuff in here. This might be the record for the biggest box of goodies I've ever gotten. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, look at some of this stuff. Tell me that isn't going to be a nice profile for a stunner. Oh man. Anyway, like everything, we are totally looking forward to not only seeing this, seeing it in real life, and having Dave finish up the plans. This is incredible. Incredible stuff. Incredible. I may even share this. In fact, I definitely will share it with Dave Downey. Look at some of this stuff. Whoa. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're there. Anyway, if you share my excitement for it, be coming up this fall when our family gets back from England. We're always happy to share this stuff. Bruce, you've outdone everything. The videos, I'm gonna have to watch them this afternoon. In fact, before Karen gets home, I will have watched all of these. Just fabulous, Bruce. I appreciate it a whole lot, and it will add to our enjoyment of the world of modeling.
Now today it's really breezy, but I still want to get some testing on this 56. I'll try to get up the field, get a couple of flights. This time of year you get the crazy air comes through.
Well, here's a valuable lesson. Never fly when the air gets unflyable. Now I had pushed this to the point of, we were getting caught in downdrafts and stuff, and what I did, I caught the outside gear, broke the flap off, pulled the wing apart. Now, because this is a take-apart plane, what I'm going to do is just over the winter, just make another wing. Just be, for right now, easier than fixing this. But what I'll do now, because we still have some flying time left this season, can take the whole powertrain out of this, and we were having some good runs on a 56, and I can put it in Strega for now, just so I can keep the test program going. But now this is, if this were a glued together plane, you can see this would be, well, we've already done it to Strega, it's not going to be a big deal. Fixing this wing will not be a big deal, but I'd really like to do it in the winter when I have plenty of time, and man, I'm not tempted to rush the finish part of it. I'm going to have to fix all that, but hey, when you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and we fly at that club field in some pretty crazy air, and every once in a while you get caught in a downdraft, and I think in this case I just caught the gear in the grass. I don't know, because it pancaked in. It didn't even break the prop. I pulled all the dirt off the front of it, and there's some dirt in the scoop and stuff, but other than that, pretty unusual crash. But anyway, she'll live to fly again. It'll be one of our repair projects over the winter. Things I'm always aware of is this is a hobby where if you're in motorcycle racing, and right now we had this equivalent thing happen on a super bike, we'd probably be in the big hospital. When it's modeling, we know we're going to have to make a wing, or we're going to have to do some kind of tricky repair on this, which we haven't decided yet. I'm going to assume it's a pretty clean break. Actually, probably the more I look at it, this probably could be actually, if we were wanting to compete with this plane, we could pull one of these all-night miracle repair things. But I've been here before, and this is the thing with being a veteran modeler, is these kind of things don't intimidate you. In fact, right over there is old Strega, and he pretty much went through the same thing for another reason. The lead out failed, but we've been here before. So what we're going to do is just pull this apart off camera. And I'd like to do some testing, because what I'm trying to do is at the end of this season get as much time on this, and this is a sweet running motor, get as much time on this as possible. And when we do, maybe we'll even just, put this together to use it as a test plane, since we have a spare fuselage. So we have a lot of choices here. Anyway, let me get the phone. Did the same thing with the powertrain that I did with with Miss Ashley's. Took everything out, made notes, even have the carbon fiber tank that was in Strega out, because it's going to be much too big of a tank. And what we're going to try to do is get this set up with about a 4-ounce tank that looks like about how much fuel it'll use ultimately. I have to do, because The front holes line up, of course. You may have to use the plates on this since this was set for Super Tiger 60 mounts. Now I want to see is how close can I get the tank to the back of this. So what I'll do is I'll make a little scribe in the back here, just to see, and then I know I can make a little block for behind the tank so the tank can sit as, I want the tank as close to the engine as possible. And it looks like, again, I'm not going to be able to get the shim that I want. But if this shows some promise, what I'll do is then I'll do a major surgery of cutting that tank floor out. But for right now, it's just got to come up off the mounts, roughly 3/8 of an inch, maybe a little more. What I use on the back of the tank to keep it from sliding back in further than I want. Just an ordinary piece of balsa, and I can fine sand this in till I get the tank as close to the motor as possible without touching. Again, this is such an old plane. It's really oil soaked. It's really, I don't know how long this is going to last, but I keep saying that for the last 5 years, and it still keeps lasting. So anyway, this would be the thing. We're going to start with a 4-ounce tank, but then of course if we want a 4.5, 5, whatever, and if we do have time before the flying season ends, we'd like to try a clunk tank. And then of course, as soon as we can make carbon fiber tanks, imagine how light a 4-ounce carbon fiber tank would be as soon as we get our tooling back from Jimmy.
Now I'm replacing this. I just cut off the piece of the fitting, bent a little piece of tubing that fits right in, and I'll silver solder that with this piece tight, otherwise this will be facing in the wrong direction. A little bit of Stay Bright silver solder and see if I get a tight fit on a tubing. If not, I'll have to put a piece of safety wire or something there. But because what happens when this is in this plane, see, in a carbon fiber plane there's more clearance. It fit right in, Miss Ashley, but it doesn't fit in Strega because the thickness of the cowl, the top block. So I decided Joe Adamusco did something similar to this, and this worked well.
Believe it or not, that fit in there just as tidy as anything. We have a little bit of a space here, which is going to give us the option of using a plastic spinner or an aluminum spinner. So the tubes wound up fitting in a relatively convenient spot. And I guess the only thing left to do is fit up the cowling, the muffler, and that's kind of all straightforward. I guess what I'm coming away from, and here's what I did, is I routed the vent back over the tune pipe little mount. What I'm guessing here is, a bird's going to fly in, is this is a relatively straightforward, actually the toughest part is making that little piece, the fitting, underneath here. That took more time than fitting up the rest of the stuff, and we're going to see if the 4-ounce tank is big enough. And actually tomorrow Jimmy's coming back with the tank tooling, and maybe we'll make a little 4-ounce carbon tank for this guy. Thing here that I had to do of removing a little piece so I could get the wrench in by the muffler, and that's certainly not a big deal at all. Just Dremel that away. Again, most of this stuff kind of fits right in. I'm very impressed with how quickly these actually being able to shim the tank. We don't know that dimension yet for the 56, but hopefully within the next week or so, if we do get some more flying, and if we can avoid crashing, we're certainly going to learn. Another relative is a long word. Anyway, we're going to try to get out tomorrow. Hopefully not have to deal with the crazy air up there again, and see if we can further our knowledge base of working with this motor. And we have a bunch of props to test too. As I think back over the years, all the motors we've had in this plane, this is probably our the test plane of the century here. Anyway, this was another little trick, getting a needle valve hole in the right spot. The muffler, of course, can be adjusted up, down, whatever. And I think we're going to ultimately look for a lighter plastic spinner, even though we have a carbon back plate on this. I know I can get a lighter spinner than that if we're going to, do any further development. But for right now, it's pretty much ready to go. And we're coming up on 2 weeks from now is the Middlesex contest, and that'll mark the time at which we've had
a year of experience with 4-strokes. Somewhere right after Middlesex, we retrofitted up our first 4-stroke, I believe. But in a year, we've really learned quite a lot, and now we have, in the case of this plane, we really can compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges, Miss Ashley's to Miss Ashley's. And this is a plane that, of course, has been repaired, so it serves us well as a good test bed for these kind of tests. Even as old and beat up as it is, this plane still tends to put in some pretty nice flights. Recover from this Miss Ashley fiasco. This is the part that was really getting chewed up. I want to put clear on this, but I want to find a break point, and that's where these lines come in handy. I want to refinish it up to this point. I just outlined it with 1/8" tape. I have this 600 sandpaper, even this off, and then I'll airbrush this in and scuff this up. Then once I put some clear on it, because dope usually blends in real well, I can just buff that right up, and you're more than likely not even going to see it. It's really handy for this, because I want to get in there before I backmask this. That epoxy's been drying a couple of days, so it should really, because we heated it, it should be relatively, well, relative is a word. Yeah, one thing I learned from this NATS is on windy days, wipe the plane off inside the motel room. Don't stand outside the van trying to hold it and it's blowing away. I guess there's just so much to learn. You know, but if it was easy, everybody'd be Paul Walker. And there is no crying in baseball. Anyway, we'll recover from this Miss Ashley crash. It's been a sad day, and we'll move on. Just like the real Miss Ashley. But I just keep thinking, boy, how lucky we are. It's modeling, and it's not. We're going to a funeral. Not going to Gary Levitz's funeral here. Wendy's. Whoa! Whoa! Look at this. The power just went off. Power just went off in a whole house. All my air conditioners went off. Anyway, we'll have to reset everything. All the digital clocks, you know, when that thing goes up, what a mess. Anyway, I'd like to get this fillet as close as possible, and then we're just going to touch that up with an airbrush. Part here. I'm trying to get this from 2 different angles, see? It's just not perfectly smooth. And these little areas up here. Because anything I can do up here, I can touch this all up right now. You can see in there, that's the first step is to airbrush in so we don't see that crack. And airbrush in here at the snouts. And airbrush in here with a little bit of olive drab. This is where I'm trying to, there we go. I love this little airbrush. For this kind of work, invaluable. It's amazing how that can work. Anyway, let's see if we can get a close-up on this. If we can. A little awkward here, but I always hold a little paper towel underneath it because we're in such a funny position. But okay, after this is backmask, couple of tricks. This will hold from, so I don't get any paint back by the spinner. I don't want to build that up so it rubs on a spinner. I'll wipe this down with M600. The trick here is to spray, because here's the areas we want to cover, but we want to feather, we want to get one coat and just stop. But then the next coat stop about there, the next coat there,
so that we feather it in. We don't want to build up that line. When I pull a tape off, I want to have just a minimum line there. But that airbrush does such a nice job. That's such a nice tool to have. The problem today is I never paint in the house, but the humidity is 1,000%, and I need to get this done. So Karen has graciously said, "Well, go ahead," and she'll go out shopping. The humidity is just a killer out there. Now hopefully tomorrow when we get the second and third coat on, we won't have anything like this humidity to deal with. But I've got an air conditioner running, I've got a dehumidifier running, and we'll still see. I'm not sure we're going to get away with this. And see, even with all the efforts we've made running an air conditioner, running a dehumidifier, we're still getting some blushing. So that means we're about at a 90 or 100% humidity outside. There's just no way. We're just going to have to wait for a day that we can get a little less humidity to finish the coats. And if we have to wait, we have to wait. Always better to wait anyway. Now we got some nice pictures here today from Mike Alomar from the Brodak meet. Now one of the things that the feedback that I've gotten is almost all the people that were at Bob Brookins' demo, they kind of enjoyed the back and forth thing. Even though it might not have shown up well on the video, it really was, in real life, it was an excellent, excellent fill-in on those rainy days. And I want to thank Bob for that. Again, these are pictures from Mike Alomar. This is a real nice one. Nice one of my friend Bob Lampione, good friend, by the way. Hope he'll be taking care of his health, too. This is the kind I like to see. Look at this. Looks like he's pacing death row here or something. Alan and John, who did a fine job, an excellent job, in fact. Look at this. Now, this is a funny picture. Look at John scratching his head. Hey, John, look, in case you didn't see John here. John's saying, "Hey, Alan, I said a little hug and a kiss, not not one of these big, giant kisses." Anyway. John put on an event this year that I don't know how you could make it better. I don't know that the whole hobby, this whole year has been just an exceptional year. And again, I just go back and forth, and I keep trying to come up with some suggestion that might make it better. I don't think you can. I don't know. We just had just the best of times. It's just unbelievable. So we're finishing up the Zetron video set. There's 3 tapes in the set for anybody who would like a dedicated set of those tapes. Again, Mike did kind of a one of these photo deals. And Mike, I really do appreciate the photos. We'll try to pass some of them on to Stunt News, of course. We're going to get back to that Typhoon. We've been putting a coat of clear on it every day. 1 coat of clear. The trick so far has been every day we leave the air conditioner running 24 hours a day. We're in totally high humidity here. There's no way you could paint outside, and again, I almost never paint in the house. What I've been doing is getting Karen off to work in the morning, and right away painting, and then as soon as this flashes over that you don't have any fogginess in it, the next step is, of course, to get some fans going and get rid of all that dehumidified air. But it looks like this is going to work pretty well. Again, if we give it 1 more coat today, I think 1 more coat, and then we'll be ready to pull off the over mask, let it dry 2 or 3 days, and then buff it all out and try to get it to blend in as well as we can. Now, one of the things we're going to be doing in the real near future is retrofitting this plane up with a 72
to see if it's going to be a good combination for the team trials and possibly experimenting with some Venturis that are coming our way. But for right now, we want to get a coat of clear on this.
A couple of tips. If you're doing this kind of a touch-up, a couple of things that'll help. The one thing you want to try to avoid at all costs is put all the paint on in a very short time. You want each coat to kind of dry out, and 24 hours is a good time. I'm guessing 5 or 6 coats is going to be enough. We're not looking to add, 30 coats of paint up here. But around the canopy where we did the repair, and up here in the front where the little exhausts are, we did a little kind of a touch-up there too. But the main thing of all is to let, in this kind of high humidity weather, let each coat flash off. Don't build up coat after coat after coat. If you try to do this in 1 day or 2 days, guaranteed it'll be a problem. Even as it is with the air conditioner and dehumidifier running, it can still be a problem. It can still be a really, see, you never know. It's like a time bomb. It's ticking and you never know if it's going to go off. But every morning now, every morning I try to get 1 coat on, and I get it as close to the air conditioner as I can, because that takes most of the humidity out of the air.
Just what you
Again, as I get up to the tape lines, I don't want to build up the edge by the tape line until it's 1/8 of an inch thick either. I want to minimize that if at all possible. And boy, you really buy yourself some security if you don't try to put it all on at once. And I've been checking with each coat, squeezing the canopy to see if that joint is holding. Again, if that's the only repair we ever have to do on this, considering we have a major repair on Miss Ashley this winter, then I've been thinking possibly of just making another wing for it.
Coat every 24 hours, and I think we'll have the best chance of having a touch-up that when it's done it'll look as well, as good as we will. The best would be if we didn't have to touch it up at all, but that's the reality of this event.
Now, as I load up the car for the Philly Flyers meet, pretty nostalgic moment, because I thought to myself, the last time I was at Willow Grove was 1957. I haven't been to this Navy base since 1957. So as I load up the car, and I have 2 things I want to test. I'm bringing down a handful of gas tanks and a whole bunch of props. We have the 56 in one plane, the 72 in the other plane. We're going to kind of use it as a test day if we can get a spare circle of fly on, and if not, we'll just have a normal contest. They're predicting rain, but so far tonight, well, it's not raining yet as I get the car loaded up. See what it's like in the morning.
Well, it doesn't look like it's raining yet. If it's raining yet, looks like it's going to be a nice day for the Philly meet. As we go past Newark Airport, that's usually one indication. You'll see some of the smokestacks. If the steam or smoke is rising straight up, you can pretty much bet it's going to be a good day, and that looks like what the case is. Yeah, not having made this trip in over 40 years, it's, boy, 40 years is a long time. Very nostalgic to be coming back to Willow Grove where they used to hold the NATS. Cool. Now look, okay, you got the thing.
Sikorsky Seaback, UH-34D, 1954-1972.
You know, I remember seeing these things fly out in Long Island by Grumman. They used to fly somewhere out there, because as kids, we used to watch them. This is someplace. Now, I haven't been here since, it's 40 years. Adamusko says, I thought you were only 38 years old. Oh, wow, look at the stuff they got here. Hey, we could have a fun day just hanging around with the stuff here. Wow, look at this. Panther. This, when I was a kid, I made so many plastic models of this. Remember there was a movie about the Panther jets?
Yeah, William Holden stuff.
Yeah.
And Mickey Rooney.
Yeah.
Was a helicopter pilot. He flew one of those HUPs there.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of my favorites too.
I have the video of this guy, the landing in the water, the most unsuccessful plane ever
I
made.
think there were only 2 of those built.
Yeah. Where's the Huey? Getting prepped for new paint over at Earl Scheib. Earl Willow Grove. Now there's a nice canopy if you're looking to make something pretty racy. Look at the hydraulics on the front of this thing, Joe.
And you know what's amazing? Those skis have wheels on it at the tail end, and then there's a tail wheel, so that they can actually rack pull this thing right up on hard.
Right.
That was a drink. That's why I saw one of these in San Diego at that Balboa Park.
I like the canopy. That is cool as can be. And the intake's way up high, and they
Well,
would
the canopy
land.
looks a little bit like one of your original Cardinal canopy.
Now, when this would land in the wind, yeah, you're right. I never even thought. Maybe they beat me by 40 years. When they would land in the water, I mean, this would be like a giant water ski coming in, right? I mean, that's all there is to it,
And
man.
you wonder how this airframe would hold up on the old.
And it would sink right up to the wings in water as the Harley guys go by.
Intakes are high.
Yeah. Now look up in the canopy. There's a handle up there. I'm guessing that's so the guy could get out. Looks like a control handle.
Maybe the slide down. I don't know. How do you get in that thing?
I don't know, yeah. Yeah, it looks like you don't get in through the top. Maybe you get in through the jet intakes or something. Who knows? Oh, what else is over here?
See that guy?
Oh, cutlass. They got a cutlass too.
That's a Piasecki HUP. That was a predecessor of the CH-47 that we're building down there now.
Yeah.
That was like 1952 vintage.
Yeah. Look, they got a kiddie park in there too. Like a kid's slide, a picnic area.
That had a recip engine. I don't know, R30 something or whatever. Can you imagine the vibration and noise that thing made?
Oh man. This when I was a kid too, making models of this. This was one of my favorites.
And
I wish I knew how many plastic models I made when I was a kid.
I think there were only like 400 or 500 of these things made.
Yeah.
It wasn't too successful, but it was.
Look at the flaps. Holy crow. It was like a stunt ship flaps.
It had spoilers on the.
Yeah.
Yeah, how'd you get into that thing? It's got to be 15 feet high.
Look at the size of the nose wheel on that too. An 86 here. Shooting star. Oh, they got all. This is cool as can be.
You got defenses in there.
Boy, I wish I had video when I was a kid coming to these NATS, Joe. The first time I saw all those planes, I damn near had a heart attack.
But that's what they called the Fury. That was like a.
Yeah, the Fury, yeah.
86.
Yeah.
Well, slightly different. I'd have to look it up and see exactly.
Yeah. Those cannons in the nose.
F-80. Still a nice one.
They had a couple of models of this at the NATS. The jets, the turbine jets.
Look how short and squatty that gear is.
Yeah.
I don't think that was ever a carrier ship.
Maybe
See the
not.
big tail hook on that Fury?
Oh yeah.
Man, that's a grappler.
Now that's a hook. Holy cool. A lot of nostalgia here, baby. Following Adamusko, who supposedly knows where we're going. I'm not sure. Anyway, they got a real nice display here. Now look, they have a nice little luncheon area here. I guess has a nice little place for the kids that, the parents that are stationed on the base to hang out. What stuff? This is an active base. I'm thinking we may see some activity, some jets take off of land, or they have a lot of Orions here. There's a Skyhawk up here. A Fox on base. Let's see if I can get him.
And I'm Nanette, and we're hoping that you're enjoying the 94 days of summer.
And another WNGO.
Pretty cool. There was a fox walking right in front of Adamusko. Yeah.
The Sportsman Center is bursting at the
Cool.
seams with all their new arrivals.
Here we are. Wow, what a sight. What a sight.
Summer traffic and
There's some custom cars out on the base here too. I'm not sure whose this belongs. Okay, so let's see. Let's hear the dissertation here.
So it's the first one with silk and dope.
All right.
And I finally bought myself an air compressor.
All right. You ought to buy a barber shop.
all a Mississippi prisoner uniform to wear with this.
Let's see how it flies pretty good.
Yeah, good. Good.
Pretty good. Scratch from the top.
That's the first one you've done with a compressor?
First one that I've ever done with compressor, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You could be half a mile away.
Yeah, it flies
That
pretty
looks
good.
great. Yeah, that's good. Looks like we're going to have a great day.
I've got a
And
number
no
of
sun.
videos at home.
All right.
The foam wing one really helped.
Yeah, good, good.
It's my son's Hawk Wolf. That's the Brodak thing.
They had one of these parked right where I had the air coupe years ago. What a station wagon of a plane, too. Holy crap.
That'll take your grandmother,
Whoa.
your anvil, your boxcar.
Put the horse in the back,
Shovel
the
it all
cow, hook up the railroad cars.
Yep.
Wow. Some other sad news while we're working on this video. Paulo Serra has had an accident with his plane, the Miss Los Angeles Cardinal. And I think it's safe to say the plane was a total write-off. Even the motor was. We're just going to use the motor for possibly you could salvage the valve cover gaskets or something, but it's just been a sad week. We've lost two really good planes in this week. Looks like, see, I haven't been to this contest before. It looks like they're flying beginner and intermediate over grass. Could be, or these are just practice circles. I'm not sure. But we wanted to do some tank testing today, so maybe we'll get one of these circles opening up. We brought 3 different tanks to put in this plane, and all 3 of them have something I'd like to be a little bit better, so maybe by the end of this week we'll come up, because we're going to start molding tanks next week, we'll come up with some baffling system or something that we really think will be worthwhile. Extremely cool. This is the hangar, I believe, where we used to have the, when they had the NATS and you could go, you know, the airplanes were all inside the hangar kind of NATS, the 50s and 60s. What are you guys up to? Wow, look at his skull and crossbones on his plane. I need to have it, I need to have it, I need to have it.
We can trade
Hey! I just watched Get Shorty last night on DVD.
Oh, yeah,
My
yeah.
son finally set up the DVD player. He only had it for a year already.
Jeez.
Gonna have a great crowd here. All the Philly Flyers, all the great little planes they have. And the one thing you may not see in the video is just how much fun these guys really know how to have fun. I think a lot of them are on drugs. That's quite part of the problem. Hey! Little run to begin with. 40?
Yeah, 2.5 ounces of fuel.
That's basically what Paul Walker's using, 2.5 ounces of fuel. This tank was made, since we're trying to upgrade our tank stuff, this was made by Ski Dombrowski.
I had the Typhoon to Concord.
But the essence of model aviation is, you're not sleeping, are you? I didn't wake you up. Hey! A really good turnout here, and plenty of 4-strokes out on the field. Make some final decisions on what tank we're going to want to put in the Typhoon when we retrofit that with a 72. We haven't made that decision yet. Hey, how you been? Before the day's over, we're going to witness a Dynajet speed flight here. I hope this isn't a stunt ship. What size is this gas tank? I never noticed on a Dyna. Yeah, I guess the gas tank, it doesn't matter. They got some beautiful trophies here to hand out at the end of the day. It looks like the weather's going to hold, hopefully. No rain yet.
attention, please. Attention, please. All Philly Flyers judges for Old Time Stunt and Tampa. Please read everybody registration set immediately. All Philly Flyers.
Shoot it up.
You sure brought a patch.
Right on the edge of the envelope. Yeah. Another way around it is a pipe. They'll never know.
We're going to steal your sensor. We can't find it. Where the heck is it? Your infrared receiver.
You can find it, you better than me, because it ain't in the plane anymore.
Okay.
This is just a test plane now.
Oh, okay. In other words, you just...
Absolutely, positively, no smoking permitted on this site. I didn't get a chance to make the announcement before, but if you do want to have a cigarette, you must go inside your car and by all means use the ashtrays. Do not throw anything out of a car on this site. But as I say, no smoking of anything is permitted on this site. Please keep that in mind. I'm going to say it again after the meeting, too.
As we're getting ready to fly, the wind is starting to pick up just a little bit, and it does look like the weather is going downhill a little bit, so we can try to see if we can get everybody to get at least one official flight here before the weather goes bad.
This will be the first flight in expert. It'll be from Hampshire.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're up next. You're up next, Larry.
And we're all concerned because the wind is starting to pick up. First run of the day, usually on any motor, can be a little bit annoying.
Hey Tom, how you doing?
I don't know.
It's the Morello.
Hampshire, first flight of the contest.
This is awesome. If you take the wind I'm not going to be able to kind of see the plane.
Three luckiest people on the field. Carlos, who lost his good plane, me, who, dummy, loses his plane.
Hey, you know this airplane made the cover of that Tampa pamphlet.
Yeah, yeah.
Now this is the end of it because it's going in the trash.
Well, I think you should fix it. That's fixable. You don't think so?
That's incentive.
I mean, with the wind cracked on the place where they...
Anyway, we've had 3 terrible crashes in 1 week. I don't know if this has been such a good week after all. I just don't know. And yours, there's nothing you can fix, Carlos? Not one piece? Oh. You don't need a windy job on it?
No, there's nothing to do.
When we broke the spinner on the first attempt, so the spinner was toast. It was flooded because it was the first startup of the day and cool. But we did get an official flight, and even though not a for sure not a real good one. Wind's blowing.
And that's why it's so...
Oh, look at that nice face. Oh my God, look. Look at him.
This is the movie star.
You didn't know there was a dog show today, huh, Sam? Oh God.
Here's the movie star.
Oh, I would have brought Peeps if I knew we were having an animal show in Bell. Yeah.
You know, Harpo is great.
Peeps wouldn't like this wind.
And he goes.
Hello.
Good.
Hello. Have you ever been on national video before?
No, she hasn't.
I'll bite your leg if you're not good. Taking a look down by the scale models now that the first round is over in stunt. You can see the wind is really starting to pick up now. Yeah. Go and hit it with a fly swatter.
What do you want to look at?
The goat? Nightingale, and what it's used for is medevac. Bobby just landed. All right, Bobby! Took the prop. Okay, something's coming in here. What is this?
It's a C9 Nightingale.
What does a nightingale mean? It's a personnel player?
Florence Nightingale?
No guns?
No, it means...
We want to see something with rockets and stuff. Who wants to see an airliner land?
This is a medevac. It's used for medevacing patients.
It looks like he's having a nice, he's handling the wind pretty better than I did anyway.
Downwind, which is not exactly the best thing to do.
Probably because we're here, you know.
Now watch the thrust reverser.
Watch the clamshells on the end of the motors. Look at this, he's going to land right on Banjock's plane. When do they hit the clamshells? When it touches down?
After you get the nose gear down. Now.
That's pretty cool.
There we go.
There we go. These are the choices in food. All food personally cooked by Mary.
But that one you get $2.
Guaranteed. How much is the antidote for these foods? Yeah, watermelon. That watermelon's looking better and better as it heats up. So, Ski, what have you been up to? SOS, huh?
Dog ended?
Back to some 238s. 2 of them getting ready to go up. Having a lot of action. They're doing touch and goes with some kind of medevac. Looks like a 727 or something. Pretty cool. Oh, as I speak, it comes back in. And our good friend Kyle Freeman back in action here after a long-awaited wait to welcome him back. Flying his model that we repaired, a couple of years ago when he had a problem. Good to see him back.
Look at this, how cool is this? I wonder if they're going to take, oh yeah, they're going to take off together. Canopies go down. Be a problem if they took off with the canopies open, that's for sure. There we go, canopies down. Sounds like they're spooling up now. These are not RC models, these are full size. And they're going right at the end of the cars. See how close they are. Looks like one plane with two rudders. How's that, Mary? That's a hard act to follow. Danny Banjack on his first official. Whoa, what was that? I thought I was the only one who did that today. Good thing I don't have my flight on video. God, the spinner came off. The spinner was loose. And it popped off, half of it fell off. I just shut the motor off. Always be prepared, because it was right after Adamusko had the accident with his plane. Oh man, look at this inverted flight. Danny, baby, this is your contest. You're supposed to dominate things here. My friend Daniel, he's such a good guy. We really do love the guy. It's hard not to like Danny. When he wins a contest, he makes sure everybody goes to the diner, which is right down the street, and he picks up the tab. Just said, put it on Steve DeJulia's credit card. No problem. Flying his beautiful Mustang. I think this is the second or third season that he's campaigned it successfully. Won quite a few of the local meets, done well at the NATS. I think he had 7th or 8th last year. The Bob Hunt design with a PA61 and a Windy Artnowski pipe, at least last time I looked. Volley prop from Randy Smith. Boy, would it be nice to have this site to practice on before as you get ready for a NATS or a team trial or something. This is really NATS conditions right here. It's exactly NATS conditions, in fact. That's amazing. Hey, Mary Knight is doing great with the food. I don't even have indigestion yet. I've been drinking coffee, eating hot dogs. We're waiting for them to cut up that watermelon. Full of John DeTavio on that watermelon. can see from the clouds. I don't know if we're going to get a second round in here. We really hope we are. We haven't started flying the scale ships yet, but we're going to get a couple of those flights on. But as any day with the Philly Flyers, always a good time. We're having a great time. Steve Dombrowski's here, and we're trying to learn all we can about these gas tank options so that we learn a little more and we can fine-tune our gas tank situation. This Ted Fancher stuff here has got to go, Daniel. Gotta go, gotta go. Let's see, I can't see who's judging here. Ted? All right, nice landing, Daniel. All right, Danny! What a great day for doing bi-slobbery. I'm sure at the end of the meet we'll have plenty of time to do some fun stuff here. Over and storm clouds are rolling in. Waiting for them to add up Daniel's score. It is stormy at best. And they're getting ready to fly the Dynajet. Always a crowd. He's going to fly it on roller skates, in fact. You going to fly on roller skates? Even I'll pay it.
What a runner he is, man.
Wow, I love it, man.
Let's see. We got to hook on the other side.
You know how to do this, Dan? I'm not sure. Are you qualified for this or what?
Oh, yeah. Well, judging from the lap speeds I normally turn,
this is a piece of cake. Is that a Dynajet, a real one, or
it's an
MEK?
No, that's a Bailey Sport Jet, which is a Dynajet balloon.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
These dang things. No, wait, we don't want.
You're going to have everybody on the field is going to come to see this action. So, Danny, you better make it good.
That makes a lot of noise. I'm not staying here.
Nah, this is muffled. This is a muffled Dynajet.
Yeah, we got a muffler, you know.
Watch, you're losing one here, Danny. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Let's see. He's using 012 solids. What a man. Illegal. Get a micrometer on this guy. If you've never seen a Dynajet in real life, it is very exciting at best. Look at all that. I thought they were going to spray paint. I thought you guys were going to spray paint planes here. They're going to start the Dynajet. Does that beat all? Look at this. Absolutely cool. All he needs is a hockey puck and he's all set.
Okay, let's try that.
Be on video. Now, what do you have to say for yourself, Crash? Did you crash today or did you fly well? I don't believe it. I wanted you to... Why? On these videos, you don't have to tell the truth. Learn the lie. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. The fuel tank on this?
It's about 8 ounces.
8 ounces? Wow. Have you ever done this before, Daniel? Yeah. I want to see at least one loop. That wing looks a little small.
If I looked at it, the thing took off the dolly, a sidewinder like this type.
Right.
As soon as it fires, they launch, jumped off the dolly, turned right out at the guy at the pylon. He takes off running, thinks he's protected. Well, the bird is swinging around in an arc. Then he gets far enough away where the monoline's wrapped up around the pylon. Now this thing starts in about a 30-foot circle, getting tighter and tighter.
Oh my God!
It was going pretty good. It finally flipped over and crashed.
Oh, I would have that on video.
Oh, I would have loved to have it on video. And there was,
well, you're not going to do anything like that on this, are you?
God, I hope not.
Well, there's no pylon for us.
And the other
no pylon, yeah, problem too.
sidewinders, they have to have this rotor blasting on the dolly, or else they...
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Oh, let's move it in on him. Watch this.
With the thrust.
Give him a little in thrust there.
with the
He looks old. He'll probably have a heart attack or something.
with the whatchamacallit,
What kind of belt cranks this thing got in it?
God, stainless steel.
Stainless?
Yeah,
Oh.
it's some tough stuff.
Not one of those cardboard deals that
One of the ones that the NATS had jumped off and it sat there and spun. it just spun.
Like
If we had
Bigfoot.
pitch in the blades, it would have took off. Took in the
Wow.
in the wing.
And that's all, that isn't balsa wood, is it? It's plywood or something?
Basswood, spruce. Yeah, but
Don't they usually have monolines on these things?
this is a sport jet. This is one of the slightly slower ones.
Oh.
I flew this.
What's the speed? 160?
Yeah.
150?
Last week I flew 154 and around 160 some with it.
I bet it'd go that fast with a Sato 91. You don't mind if I stand back a little? I don't know about how professional Daniel feels about this. I think I'll get under a car or something. Mr. Macho. All right, Danny. Fast is like a typical speed.
About 155, 160 right there.
That's about 160.
Yeah.
And that's what, 7 laps?
7 laps. That's
7 laps in 11 seconds.
a half mile.
Wow. Danny, you didn't break the record. You got to fly it again inverted.
Not fast enough, Danny. They gotta go.
Yeah, I sure did.
Oh, okay.
We got him indoctrinated.
Ah, terrific.
It's a simple one.
This is an honor. Oh, she didn't like the noise.
What they're deciding to do now is, because we have thunder coming in, they're going to call a contest after one round. So at the end of one round, that looks like what's going to happen here, because it's going to be a one-round contest.
Andrew, quick.
Became a quick one-round contest. And I think it was the right move based on the way lightning can strike here at any time.
Is that official?
Looking like tradition has put one more win in the bank for his illustrious career here. And believe it or not, the tank we were testing seemed to be okay. Seemed not to be the worst one we've ever had.
I don't know that they can.
Very nice, Bob.
You know, the nice part about it, it flies good too.
Yeah, it looks real nice.
Well, you said it's got a noble wing in it, right?
Yeah, they all have a noble wing. How can it be bad if it's got a noble wing in it?
That's right.
And they're all trying to get their scale flights in here before the thunder and lightning come. I think some of the people are going to stay. You may stay even.
Call the contest?
Yeah. Once they give the trophies away. I feel a couple of I feel rain already. Nice P-51. Be interesting to see Gerald Shamps working on a P-51 right now. Al Rage P-51 Millie was really super. The year coming up is going to be a banner year. I'm guaranteed there'll be some interesting stuff happening. Cool stuff. Oh, nice touchdown. What a farmer. What's he doing down there?
Yeah.
Good.
Hey.
I poured coffee on my belly. I got
Hey, boot him up! 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 Boot him up!
They booted you.
Boot him up!
You're booted.
Bend over!
Deliver.
Bend over!
Now advance. Bend over.
Boot him over! Oh, shut up! Hey, shut up! Boot him up! Boot him up! Boot him up!
And I don't know what happened to Gil Reedy.
What kind of plane you flying, Al?
Indy card.
Hey! Boo! Hey!
One more trick like that, you're going in expert.
Hey! Come here!
He's riding it. He's riding it.
With an SB11.
Hey!
Next time.
Fifth place.
Fifth place is, hey! I want my fifth place trophy. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
I deserve it too.
And a special award for the shot of the day to the CD, Bob Zambelli.
Yay!
Nobody got off a better. Okay. Not up, just.
Hey!
Don't go away. Intermediate. You got second place.
Okay.
What happened to Phil? He's still filming.
He's here.
still filming.
Here he comes.
First place in OTS expert.
Hey! The trophies, it looks like they're washing a plane or something here. What the hell is that? A plane de-icing or washing? Or... Yeah, it's some kind of de-icing thing. Tells you what we know. It's unbelievable. I never saw anything like that. Oh look, as we're doing that, another one lands. Wow. So you get your plane washed, you get the fly stunt, all at one local contest. We could drive our cars over there, get the bottoms clean.
Yeah, we just moved again.
Well, with the contest over, we got a little time while in between the raindrops here, they're going to fly.
I even told him the message got a
Electric powered plane here.
It's 3 cars wide. That car on the right. Because, you forced it.
The Banjo pusher bike. Motors in the front, props in the between the lanes.
Those engines got a lot.
Record things as they actually are, not some phony Hollywood rendition of things. That's one of the ones that sends the code through the wires?
Yeah, and then I have...
Like Augies?
Yeah, like Augies, and then I have this set up for idle, so I adjust the idle from the handle, and then for shut-off,
Oh, yeah, right, I got you.
bring it
I got you, yeah.
right down like that.
Yeah. Are these bombs or batteries? Yeah. Even I don't have a storage for my batteries.
Nice
Wow.
purple batteries.
Yeah.
And then I'll come around real quick. I'll grab it from you.
That's what he told the last guy as his face went into the prop.
Down and then you grab it.
Everybody wants to see the biplane fly, including dumb Windy. At least the wind isn't blowing like before.
Actually, it's picking up a little.
Well, it's of course you're getting ready to fly. He's all lubed up and fueled up, and we're at the end of this tape, so we're going to try to get what we can of Danny's flight, if anything. We are flying in between the raindrops. It's been raining on and off the last hour or so.
Yeah, it's a 46, okay? Like I said again, you just hold it. No, Joe?
Sadly, I see the battery light on, so that means we are possibly not going to get this. But anyway, we did have a great day. We really shouldn't complain. Even a bad day at the field is better than a good day at work.
Vinny, you're going up there?
Since this is a scale flight, we don't know what maneuvers, if any, go out. We're not sure we know, or we're not sure he knows. Whoa! Ah! What a way to end the video. And a great day here in Philly. You bet. It's getting more exciting by the minute, Roy.
Touch and go.
He's done about 800 of them already.
Touch and go.
I'm glad this isn't going off a carrier. Better give the pilot swimming lessons. He's got it up now.
23 horsepower Pratt & Whitney radial in there.
What do they have to do, Roy? Run 10 laps on the ground or in the air?
Combination of each.
A ground lap counts as an air lap?
Works a lot better when it's going into the wind. So it's between you.
Well, it took 40 years for me to get back to Willow Grove. That was a great time.
We got home from a great contest. I opened up the mail, and in the mail is this remote glow drive. Boy, is this something I'd love to have on the B-25. Now what it is, this is from Noel Drindak, and he sends a set of directions with it for anybody like Walt Brownell. Walt Brownell should be using this. Anyway, Walt, this comes from Noel Drindak, of course, and it's relatively heavy duty here. The wires are heavy duty, they're encased in something pretty solid. And of course then the glow drive, this mounts to the side of the fuselage or underneath or somewhere. Now with a Sato it's really important because the thing is on a crazy angle. This really allows you to neaten up the cowling joints, and I think this is one of the parts we're going to be using for sure on the B-25. We're going to try to use a test on this. I'm going to put this on one of the test planes just to see if it's appropriate, and I'm sure it is. But I have to send it back to Noel first. I have to cut the wires to length, and then he puts the crimps and the heat shrink tubing on at his end. So it's really a nice deal. And you have to send him a glow plug, the glow plug you intend to use. A nice little addition for any scale model or any stunt model, any model. And what this does too, that's nice, it keeps your fingers getting it, and that's real nice on a 4-stroke because the needle valve is so far back. Keeps you from having to get your fingers down by that spinning prop.
Like I said before, Ultra Edition has had every motor in the world, Tiger 60s, PAs, Jets, 4-stroke Sato 72s, and it's still winning contests, and I guess that's a testament to longevity. In fact, this trophy was from what, from 93? That's amazing. To me, that's an amazing, longevity is a wonderful thing. The thing is that in this week, we've lost three planes that I've shared my life with, and all 3 of them are gone. The thing I always remember is how model aviation, when you do have these catastrophic failures and mistakes and problems, it's really nowhere near as bad as when they happen in real airplanes or on racing motorcycles or whatever. Good thought for the day. Anyway, we'll see you on the next tape.